Hey everybody, my name is Taylor Caldwell and this is my partner.
Elizabeth Ray. This is our presentation number 1 for legal ethics on Paul James Springer being disbarred.
Let's start with some facts for the case. For starters, there were 4 complaints filed in a petition for discipline on February 14th in 2017, and then an additional 7 complaints filed in a supplemental petition on August 14th in 2017. In those complaints, a hearing panel decided that Mr. Springer failed to reasonably communicate with his clients. He failed to attend scheduled meetings, failed to notify clients of court dates. He failed to respond to motions, discovery requests, and show cause orders. He continued to practice law after suspension of his license, in that he failed to notify his clients of his suspension. He failed to withdraw as an attorney of record, failed to refund unearned retainers, failed to provide substantive for professional services to his clients. He failed to file suits in a timely manner, and he made material misrepresentations to clients.
Mr. Springer actually has both past and present punishments. Starting with his past punishments, you have him only being suspended for a minimum of 60 days. However, that suspension continues until he has completed his requirements of a restitution of $10,000, an engagement practice monitor, and a completed 6 hours of continuing education, plus obtaining professional liability insurance of a $100,000 or $200,000 claim. And however, once he completed all of that, he would be good to practice law once again. So we move on to his present punishments, because he did not follow the past punishments I just listed, which actually resulted in him getting disbarred and having to pay even more restitution. Apologies. Which was divided up by $6,000 to Marty Costin Jackson, $755 to Courtney Bell, $3,500 to Monica Perez / Olden Perez Bowie, $5,000 to Elridge Hill Jr., $6,000 to Gylan Greer, and $600 to Kenneth Jackson, for a total of $21,855, which now he had to pay this and could not get reinstated.
So the reasoning and rationale behind the board's decision and punishment to disbar Mr. Springer, with the complaints that were heard in a judgment hearing panel, they concluded that he was a multiple offender of being negligent to court orders and to duties to his clients time and time again. And Elizabeth will go into more detail in the next couple of slides of those factors.
Moving on to mitigating and aggravating factors of this case, we only have one mitigating factor that was considered in this case, and it was Mr. Springer claiming that he had a conflict with personal health and family obligations, which were causing him not to be able to do his job correctly. However, he gave no detail into these issues, so the board did not find these issues as mitigating circumstances in this matter. There were, however, multiple aggravating factors brought up in this case. To begin with, he had many cases. He had 7 complaints of misconduct. He had disciplinary offenses prior to this. He was very dishonest and selfish in his motives. And he had bad faith obstruction because he didn't follow what the court rulings were. He had refusal to acknowledge wrongful nature, like he would not accept that he did something wrong. He didn't think he was to blame. And then you have vulnerability of victims, because they didn't realize that he wasn't doing his job correctly. He was using their lack of knowledge of the law to pretty much take money from them but not get them anything returned.
Mr. Springer violates a variety of rules in the judgment of his disbarment. All the rules he violates are 1.1 of competence, 1.2 of scope of representation, 1.3 diligence, 1.4 communication, 1.7 conflict of interest, 1.16 declining or terminating representation, 4.2 communication with the person represented by counsel, 8.1 bar admission and disciplinary matters, 8.4 misconduct. Of all of these rules that he violated, there are two that we have been studying so far in class. So I'm going to start with the first one with Rule 1.2, scope of representation and allocation of authority. To review what that rule is, a lawyer shall abide by a client's decision concerning the objectives of representation and shall consult with the client about the means by which the client's objectives are to be accomplished. A lawyer may take such action on behalf of the client as is impliedly authorized to carry out the representation. When we look at the 4 complaints filed in the petition for discipline, we learn that client Gregory Jeffries hired Mr. Springer to represent his case for a breach of contract, statutory bad faith, Consumer Protection Act, and negligent interference with contract case that was related to the total loss of Mr. Jeffries' home in a fire. The court filed for a motion called order to show cause, which basically requires the attorney or the client to justify or explain and prove more information that the judge would need to make a decision for the case to benefit their side of the case. Mr. Springer was given this motion and neglected to respond in a timely manner. And he also neglected to even inform Mr. Jeffries of the motion, which led to the courts to dismiss any claims that Mr. Jeffries would offer for his case. So basically, he violates this rule in that Mr. Jeffries was supposed to make a decision and he couldn't make that decision because Mr. Springer didn't allow him to make that decision, basically. So the decision was made by not filing the motion. And the next rule we're going to go over is 1.16, declining or terminating representation. To review what that rule is, a lawyer shall not represent a client where representation has commenced, shall withdraw from the representation of a client if, 1, the representation will result in a violation of the rule of professional conduct or other law, 2, the lawyer's physical or mental condition materially impairs the lawyer's ability to represent the client, or 3, the lawyer is disbarred. So looking back at the complaints filed again in the petition for discipline, we learn of a complaint filed from an attorney, Jennifer Mitchell. She was renting office space in the office building that Mr. Springer had his office in for 2 years. And upon Mr. Springer's suspension, he continued to go to his office and perform duties of an attorney for at least one client. Mr. Springer spoke to a judge over a phone call without informing the judge of his suspension. And he scheduled a phone conference for Ms. Mitchell. When Ms. Mitchell brought this information to light in her formal complaint, we gather that he violates Rule 1.16 by failing to properly inform his client and the judge of his client's case about his suspension. So that violates number 1 in the paragraph A of 1.16. Representation will result in violation to the rules. Representation will result in violation to the rules of professional conduct.
There are many things that Mr. Springer could have done to avoid his disbarment, honestly, but to begin, he could have just been honest with everyone. If he couldn't provide the professional legal help he promised, he could have come forth and told his clients this and been honest with them and helped them find someone who could help them. And then he should have also followed the court rulings when he got suspended the first time. He should have let that be known when he was supposed to, and not continue to promise his clients that he could help them when he knew he wasn't even supposed to be trying to help them. And he should have not lied to the judge and been honest with the judge. He was suspended and couldn't be a part of this case anymore, and he should have just been honest through the whole thing. So, thanks for your time, guys. That was our presentation on the Shelby County lawyer, James Springer, being disbarred. Hope you learned a lot and what not to do as a lawyer. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.